Welcome to The Explainer. If you're a focused learner who loves cutting through the noise to get straight to the core of an idea, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're unpacking a story that completely flips how we understand problem solving. And I'll be honest with you right up front, I'm a frameworks guy. My whole approach to life's big questions has always been about finding the right method, the right analysis. So this topic, it's profoundly disorienting for me. It's an ancient tale that holds a devastatingly simple mirror up to the modern mind.
Okay, let's dive into this. What if the search is the obstacle? We're skipping our usual historical background today because I really want to drop you straight into this jarring paradox. Everything, and I mean literally everything, in our culture tells us that to find an answer, you have to go seek it out, right? But what if the very act of seeking is the exact thing keeping you trapped? Just hold on to that uncomfortable thought for a minute.
To really get this, we're going to look at a brilliant parable. So there's this king, and he wants to find the absolute wisest person in his kingdom to be his prime minister. When the search finally narrows down to 3 incredibly intelligent candidates, he decides to put them to the supreme test. He places the 3 men in a room in his palace, points to the door, and tells them the lock on that door is the last word in mechanical ingenuity. It's the ultimate puzzle. Whoever opens it first gets the job.
Now, the second the king finishes speaking, what happens? Well, 2 of the men instantly jump into action. And honestly, this is exactly what I would do. They whip out paper, they're drafting mechanical diagrams, they are fiercely working out these insanely complicated mathematical formulas to crack the combination. It's just this breathless flurry of high-level intellectual activity. And, this brilliantly illustrates our human default. Give us a challenge, and our minds immediately rush to complex methodologies and frantic action.
But then we look at the third man. While the first 2 are buried in this chaotic storm of formulas and assumptions, the third guy does something completely unexpected. He just sits in his chair. He doesn't pull out a pen, doesn't write a single equation. He's just still, doing absolutely nothing. He simply rests in pure observation, quietly watching the room and watching the door.
Finally, while the other 2 are practically sweating over their math, the third man simply stands up, he walks over to the door, reaches out, turns the knob, and it opens. It had been unlocked all the time.
Section 1. The Trap of Complexity. Why Brilliant Minds Build Their Own Prisons. That twist really hits hard, doesn't it? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it deconstructs our own intellect. It's so important to validate those first 2 men. They weren't foolish. Their math was probably flawless. In any normal scenario, their rigorous analysis would be exactly the right play. But they instantly accepted a false frame. The king said it was an ingenious lock, so they just assumed it was locked. They didn't check reality first. They got so deeply entangled in finding the right answers that they never stopped to ask if there was even a question to begin with. They literally built a prison out of their own brilliant calculations.
Which brings us to Section 2, the secret of not doing, the power of pure presence. Now, when you first hear this, it's super easy to think, oh, the third guy was just lazy, or maybe he gave up because the others were faster at math. But that is completely missing the point. He was doing the one thing the others failed to do. He was actually present. Instead of retreating into his head to solve a hypothetical problem, he stayed right there in the reality of the room.
What he was practicing is beautifully captured by the ancient concept of dhyana. Dhyana is this state of not doing or just being. And there's a really vital distinction here. When we hear the English word meditation, we usually think it means to think upon something, right? Like actively visualizing or using a specific mental technique. But dhyana is the exact opposite. It's the total absence of analytical technique. He wasn't visualizing the door opening. He was just sitting. And in that spaciousness of not doing, he could actually see what was right in front of him. Section 3, the prison of seeking, how the exit becomes the lock. Let's move to and see how this builds into the philosopher Osho's radical interpretation of this parable, because this is where it stops being a clever puzzle and becomes a mirror for our own lives. The most disorienting part of all this is realizing that the prison we feel trapped in, we built it entirely out of our desperate search for an exit.
Osho put it perfectly. He said, people are trying different methodologies, practicing 1,001 things to get out, and in fact, they are out. I mean, wow, that is a quietly devastating realization. He's not being nihilistic here. He's making a radical claim about the human condition. We aren't in bondage, we only think we are.
And because we deeply believe we're trapped, we create the trap. The exhausting effort to escape is the very thing projecting the illusion of the cage. So the crucial point is this. The bondage is an illusion. But here is the real kicker. The more sophisticated our seeking gets, the more entangled we become. You could be a highly analytical thinker relying on strict formulas like those first two men, or you could be a dedicated spiritual seeker relying on intense meditation routines and self-improvement frameworks. It actually doesn't matter. The method itself becomes your new lock. You are frantically trying to pick a lock on a door that is already standing wide open.
Section 4, dropping the method, turning the mirror toward yourself. I really want to make this personal for a second. Think about your own life right now. What's that one thing you are working tirelessly to solve? That massive, heavy problem you've been analyzing for years, reading books about, finding new frameworks to fix. I want you to consider, just for a moment, the terrifying but wonderful possibility that this problem might not even exist.
What would it actually feel like to pause the search? Not giving up, not admitting defeat, just hitting pause on all the endless self-improvement, the constant fixing. What would it feel like to just sit in the chair, drop the heavy mathematical formulas of your life, and simply look at the door? Just feeling that incredible spaciousness and relief of letting the method go.
I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Just let it settle in the silence. What if you aren't trying to find something you've lost? What if you were trying to find something you have never been without?